President Trump was the target of Iran long before his secret plane swap in July. So what made this particular threat so credible? What did U.S. officials know, and when did they know it for it to be so readily believed and then acted on? Former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta joins us again, and Kevin Barron as well. So, Kevin, many of these are your questions. You're quite skeptical. Help me understand why.
Well, I looked at this event with, an old defense editor's eye, and I thought of three storylines that I really want to know. One is, was this a real threat or not? Because whatever the answer is a problem. There clearly was a security gap, even if for a moment, between Americans, Israelis, Turkish, NATO, anybody else that had anything to do with the security of the president. That's number one. Number two is the fact that there was this a perceived assassination attempt in Turkey, in the capital city of a NATO country at a NATO summit. Imagine if this was, I don't know, Paris, London, any other capital. For some reason, we seem to be forgetting or just letting it slide that this happened in a NATO capital where this is supposed to happen. And the last thing is going back to the intelligence. I think there's a serious intelligence credibility problem for the United States and for Israel in a new way that's been building for a while. And simply, I would say what I've said often on air, which is whenever the presidents of these countries have been at each other's throats, whether they're friends or not, usually internationally, there are professional relationships between intelligence services and the military, which Secretary and Director Panetta knows far more than I do, that are at a professional level that survive the politics and that are level-headed. But in the recent years, with Israel's behavior under Netanyahu, the Israelis have lost credibility for what they claim happens to be true. And we've seen a lot of reporting about Israelis now in the last couple of days, apparently have been telling the Americans that there are assassination attempts or threats on Trump, that the CIA is believing less and less. So it all paints a picture of far too many questions, far too much lack of clarity for something as important as a presidential trip to a NATO summit.
Secretary, do you share those concerns, that skepticism?
Well, look, as a former chief of staff to the president, I take very seriously any potential threat to the life of the president. And it is important that there is accountability here in terms of the credibility of the information that is provided. I, frankly, would not have relied just totally on Israeli intelligence. I think it was important at that moment to talk to our own CIA director or talk to our CIA officials and determine whether or not it was a credible threat and whether or not we had intelligence that, in fact, that kind of threat existed. I don't know that took place here, but I would have been very careful about moving quickly without getting the kind of full information that you need in order to take action. And it ought to be dependent on our sources of intelligence, not somebody else's sources.
Do you have confidence that it was vetted through our intelligence, or are you concerned that it was just Israeli intelligence? And if you're concerned that it is just Israeli intelligence, why does that concern you? Because in many instances in the past, the Israelis have had pretty good intelligence. I mean, we've seen examples of that over the years. I'm not necessarily including getting into this war. So what would make you skeptical? And I ask that because there have been concerns raised that Netanyahu is trying to manipulate Donald Trump for his own purposes, to try to get him to keep him aggressive and engaged in this conflict.
Look, there are issues here that go to the attack on Iran. The intelligence that Israel shared with the United States is that if the United States and Israel wiped out the leadership in Iran, that within a few days, the regime would collapse. Our intelligence, U.S. intelligence, said that was farcical, that was a joke, that was not going to happen. So that raises questions in my mind about, once that happens, whether or not you can just simply rely on the intelligence that we're getting from Israel. I've worked with Mossad. we've shared intelligence before, but generally, it was a relationship of trust. When you have a competitive relationship here, in which you're not quite sure what exactly is the reason for providing this intelligence directly to the president, as opposed to talking to our intelligence officials and determining whether it's credible, that raises concerns that we just have to be a little bit careful about taking action without verification of the intelligence that's coming in.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. Benjamin Netanyahu himself, other leaders, well, really Benjamin Netanyahu, has been trying to get an American president to fight Iran alongside him, bomb Iran for a long time now. No other president has done it because the past presidents presumably have relied on our own intelligence saying it wouldn't be so easy. Donald Trump is the only one who has done it. So I don't want to make it seem like this is a puppet master thing. Like, Donald Trump has clearly got agency here, and he's the one that was convinced to get into this, and it's clearly not going well. One last question regarding the plane. What does it say to you, Secretary, that 2 cabinet secretaries remained on the decoy plane?
Well, look, again, I understand the reason for the diversion. I think, other presidents have taken those kinds of steps. But what concerned me is that you had other officials, plus staff, plus the press on the other plane, and they were not made aware of the threat that was out there. And I think that was a mistake. I think, frankly, we owe it to other officials. We owe it to other staff members. We owe it to the press to make sure that if there is that kind of threat and we're acting on it, that they are aware of it, because that plane could very well have just become a decoy that could have been attacked. And for that reason, I think you have to be really careful that people are made aware of the threat that's out there that you're acting on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Secretary, always good to have you. Thank you. Kevin Barron, really good to have you today as well. Appreciate it.